Hello there. My name is Graham, and I am going to be sharing some of my thoughts in regards to the upcoming Scottish election. So it's not too far away from now, so let's talk about some of the things that's being talked about. Now, according to the polls that's been taking place, the opinion polls, um, I've never personally been asked for my opinion on a poll ever. I'm still waiting for the day. So it will come, maybe. Doesn't really matter, I suppose, because at the end of the day, what actually matters is what you mark in the box on your voting card. So that's what actually matters. So, according to the polls in Scotland, the Scottish National Party are the most popular and look pretty much set to win. Now, whether it's going to be a majority or a minority government, that's up for debate. So, yeah, the party that looks like it could come second appears to be Reform UK, and that, of course, is an amazing achievement. They're still classed as, in my mind, a new party, really. Um, so, second place is a pretty good achievement for Reform UK, I would say. Um, it's debatable where everyone else will finish. So I guess we'll see how accurate these polls are. Who knows? I admit I'd be surprised if the SNP lost. So yeah, we'll see. What I'm going to do in this video, though, I'm going to show you some of the things that is said for the Scottish National Party's manifesto, what voting for them actually means, and I'll show you what the Reform UK's manifesto says as well for Scotland. So I think that since we're voting here in Scotland, and these two seem to be the two most popular parties here, I'd like to cover what they say, and we can actually make a decision which one sounds better. So I'll take you through them right now. So I'm looking at the SNP website right now. So that's what I'm looking at right now. You can look at it as well if you wish to. It's on the www.snp.org, and the section I'm looking at is what a vote for the SNP means. So I'm gonna take you real briefly through it all, give you a rough idea. I'll share some thoughts in there too. Um, I'm just going to give you a rough idea of what they're promising, basically. So, new GP walk-in clinics and shorter NHS waiting times. Now, of course, that sounds amazing. That's we're all moaning about NHS waiting times right now, and it's very hard to get a GP, like to see a GP in person and things for a lot of people. And this is what a lot of people are saying all the time. Um, they're saying they've already been spending £36 million, to roll out this new network of walk-in GPs, and it's just to make it easier for us to see GPs, right? Um, so, of course, this obviously is a situation where we're spending more money, and it leaves me asking the question: how are we going to fund it on a wide scale, right across the country, and will it be something we can sustain long term? Like how is the situation improving with the number of actual GPs employed, right? As well, what about the amount of doctors and nurses across Scotland and things like that? Like, it's one of the reasons why GPs are struggling in the first place is because we're just lacking people. And then we're talking about this walk-in clinics. Are we going to be overworking GPs? People that already work there, or what's going to happen exactly? It's talking about where is this? Services will be 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days per week, and will allow people to attend without a prior appointment. One of the things that I know is people are already overworked, and that is my concern. And I wouldn't say this is necessarily a foolproof way of fixing the problem. Um, I'll be interested to see if how this actually works, and how they're going to afford it properly without having to raise any more taxes or anything like that in some areas, or making big cuts somewhere. So yeah, this will be an interesting one. So I'll just go down to the next one. Extra help with the cost of living. It talks about keeping council tax and water bills lower the rest of the UK. That's something that they'll continue to do, I assume so. We've restored winter heating payments for pensioners, free childcare, free bus travel for pensioners and young people. This is the SNP's cost of living guarantee. Hmm. Well, one of the thing is, I know it's difficult with the cost of living across, well, not just Scotland, but across the United Kingdom. And anything that we can save, money wise, is always a good thing. I don't think this is too much different from what other parties like to try and say. They do try and say it. It's not very often they tell us they're going to try and make us poorer. They don't usually say that, do they? They usually try and tell you the opposite. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, we end up having more bills to pay, or higher bills to pay and stuff like that. Yeah, nothing too unusual with that one. More free childcare and new school breakfast clubs. Now, I think this is important because I think families, especially lower income families, it's good to have any kind of support, with our children, because we want to be able to have childcare we can afford, and we want to be able to go to our work and know our kids are being looked after and things, and and any type of support. I think it's important to encourage families as best as we can. So this is something I would say is a good thing. So I quite like this one, actually. Lower energy bills with independence. So that'll be Scotland breaking out of the Union, of course, of the United Kingdom. Um, Talks about us being an energy rich nation, and yet, we're facing some of the highest energy bills in Europe, and that doesn't add up. And, they are right. It doesn't add up. I don't think Scottish independence is necessarily the cure to that. I used to support Scottish independence many years ago. I changed my mind right at the time of the referendum, and I voted no. Um, I think everything really depends on who's running your like who's actually running your country. And people say one thing to you, and they don't. They might promise you things, but they don't actually do it in the end. And the question is, if we did get Scottish independence, would we have the right people in charge to bring the energy bills down? I don't know. And the question is, can we get the energy bills down now? Yeah, I think we could. I think we could, but we need the right people to do that. So I don't. Yeah, independence is not something that has to be done. Another part in here is help for renters and first time buyers. And it sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? I'm not sure exactly the funding of it exactly. Um, there's a lot of people struggling to get on the market for the first time, or renting a place. Um, I think one of the actual issues is as well. A lot of people, when you're going out renting for the first time, a lot of them look for a history of renting, and um, I don't know if that's a thing. It's still that still happens or not. I don't actually rent, so I don't know. I think anything that can encourage people to be able to get into a home, and just anything that can help them have a place of their own and a place for their family and all that. I think it's important to encourage that, and I think that's something that a government can do for its people. So I question the like exactly how the Scottish government will do it. One part is I'm noticing the first 175,000 pounds of a property purchased by a first time buyer will remain tax free. So that sounds pretty good. Um, Someone else saying applicants can apply for. Wait, hang on. Okay, our open market shared equity scheme is also available to people across Scotland who can't afford the full price of a home. Applicants can apply for between 60% and 90% of the property's value without having to purchase it in full, with the Scottish Government owning the remaining share. So it does sound like money will be spent, taxpayers' money will be spent on people's homes. So, again, with that in mind, we'll have to ask ourselves, like, where's the money coming from? How are we going to sustain this? Um, there's always questions to ask. Um, I imagine this sort of stuff will be asked in First Minister's questions, I'm sure. At least I would imagine this sort of question being thrown at them anyway. And then, of course, the last part, it says a government that's always on Scotland's side. So, yeah, this is just basically talking about how um, basically Westminster parties take their orders from their London bosses. It says interests of the Westminster power, not the people of Scotland. So basically, it's just saying that if you vote for the SNP, we have your best interests in heart. Nobody else does. Now, personally, I don't actually agree with that. I think there's a lot of people who actually care about Scotland but don't believe in the topic of Scottish independence. So it's just obviously they care about Scotland but have totally fundamental differences in how Scotland is to be governed as such. So yeah, so that's the Scottish National Party. Um, I don't know if you can call this its manifesto. It's certainly a page on their website that talks about what it means. So, but I'm going to look at the Reform UK manifesto next. So I'm looking at the Reform UK's Scotland manifesto. So it is quite long, so I won't be able to read the whole thing. Because I don't want this video to be like way too long. So it's just give you an idea of some of the things that what both parties are standing for. So I highly encourage you to read these things for yourself. So the website for the Reform UK is www.reformparty.uk. And you just look up Scotland Manifesto. And I highly encourage you to check that out, so you know what you're voting for. And I have my strong opinions of who I, of course, would vote for on this. Um, the purpose of this video, though, is not to tell you that, like the answer to that, but it's just to take you through what we're both telling you, what they're telling us. So I'll at the end of this manifesto, they give you 5 core pledges, and these are to: one, fix our NHS and cut waiting lists. Number 2, cut our taxes and make work pay. Now, right away, we have very clear similarities between them, but one thing that stands out to me is making work pay. If you read the whole manifesto, you'll see that there is a bit of talk about welfare. There are people on welfare that are actually better off than those who are working, and that's not right. So they're trying to deal with that. They want to make sure that people who work are the ones that's going to be better off in life. So I can understand that one, because it's not right that somebody's working really hard just to try and make ends meet, but then somebody who's not working at all is better off than them. And that's obviously something it bothers a lot of people. That when you talk to people in general and you hear how people talk about it, not everybody's happy about that, obviously. The NHS and waiting list topic, of course, it's a big topic. The one thing I can say, that I have to say is important in the manifesto, is that they talk about how it will be free to people that's using it and will be taxpayer funded. So it's basically as it is, right? But to me, this flies in the face of some of the claims of some of the other parties who say the Reform UK will basically privatize it, and you basically have to end up paying for it. And some people have said that, and I'm not sure if these are official stances of these other parties or if it's just what individuals are saying. You'll have to check that out for yourself. But I have certainly heard it being said. Core belief number 3, or wait, is it belief? Core pledges. Core pledge number 3: lower your energy bills. Now, it talks about how Scotland's an energy-rich nation, right? We've got so many assets here, and yet we're basically trying to decommission sites, and then we're buying so much of our what we need, like in oil and all that, from Norway, like the majority of our what we need. That's not right. It's ridiculous, and they must be laughing at us when they might, to be honest with you, they must be laughing at us. So obviously they want to sort that out. They want to prioritize local people and restore law and order. Now, when it's talking about prioritizing local people, that's to do with our communities, where we're talking about affordable housing. Now, a lot of people are not in the areas, are not getting prioritized. In fact, people from a great distance away get these houses instead, and then the people who actually are local ones, they're missing out, and it doesn't seem very fair or practical. So obviously we want to change that a bit, and that makes sense to me. Then it says build Scotland for the future. Now, one of the things for building Scotland it talks about is educating young people as well as other adults into the different sectors that Scotland has. Scotland's rich in all these in these industrial sectors, including tourism as well as energy sectors and so on. And there's a good opportunity for the country as a whole, as well as the individual, to basically benefit from what Scotland offers. So this is this is a very brief summary of what I've read in the manifesto. I would recommend that you check this out for yourselves, have a read, check out what the SNP have also written on their website, read them both, evaluate, and these are the two most popular parties in Scotland right now, according to the polls. So, yeah, I would highly recommend making a decision on who will best represent you on the day. So, thank you for listening, and let's hope that whatever the outcome of this election, we will see a government that truly represents us and will do what's right for us.